Hello everyone, and welcome back to Secrets Behind the Stars. I hope your day is treating you well, because today we're unpacking a subject that has quietly set the internet buzzing, the intimate, carefully guarded dynamics between Barış Baktas and Yağmur Yüksel. If the title caught your eye, you already know, we're diving into the whispers, the glimpses, and the unspoken truths that have kept fans guessing. Two names that shine on their own in Turkish entertainment, and a rumored connection that seems to glow a little brighter every time they appear anywhere near the same orbit. Over the years, there have been murmurs and hints, coincidental meetings, and that unmistakable spark that audiences can't help but feel. But how much of the narrative we carry about them is real, and what are the quiet habits and choices that have allowed them to keep so much under wraps? Before we begin, if you're new here and love staying close to real, emotional stories from the world of showbiz, relationships, crosscurrents, and everything in between, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss what's next. Now, let's get to what you came for. Through their careers, Barış and Yağmur have moved through similar circles, events where the energy is high, premieres where the cameras don't blink, and professional settings where collaboration and timing matter. That's where the trickiness often begins, when the boundary between on-duty and off-duty fades and rumor starts to take its first breath. What's always been compelling is the way they both carry a calm center in the middle of the spotlight. Being constantly watched can make anyone reactive, yet they've shown a kind of discipline and intention that feels rare. They don't just avoid noise, they choose silence where it counts. A recurring thread in the speculation around them is that the bond runs deeper than friendship or a convenient professional rapport. There's talk of evenings spent well out of the paparazzi's reach, of dinners where the conversation flows and the phones stay face down, of drives beyond the city when the weather is mild and the roads are empty. Fragmented details, yes, but enough to suggest a rhythm that's not random. People close to the scene whisper that the two connect over an affection for slower living, mornings without hurry, time outside, books dog-eared at the edges, and a shared instinct to keep what matters away from the glare. And that's where the so-called secrets begin to look less like scandal and more like a code of living. Both of them are said to value authenticity. The glossier version of celebrity life, the perpetual red carpet, the endless posing, has never entirely defined them. For every glamorous appearance, there's an equal and opposite evening of ordinary calm, a quiet table in a neighborhood restaurant, an unannounced visit to a small gallery, a walk along the water when the city goes a little soft after sunset. They've built a method for moving unseen, not as a stunt but as a practice, like two people who understand that intimacy grows in the spaces no one else enters. There's also the conversation about admiration, and in this case, it means more than compliments traded for the cameras. Those who've watched them across seasons say that Barış respects the precision of Yağmur's craft, her habit of lingering over a scene until its emotion is exact, her willingness to choose roles that stretch her. And Yağmur, in turn, seems to take comfort in the steadiness that Barış brings. The way he keeps his feet on the ground when a project swells, the preparation that shows up in every performance, the humanity that outlasts his headlines. That kind of mutual awareness doesn't just feel sweet, it feels durable. It explains how two people could weather long schedules, unpredictable travel, and the awkwardness of speculation without losing the thread of who they are to one another. Of course, there's that persistent rumor, the one about a trip far from familiar eyes. The place changes depending on who's telling it. Sometimes it's a cove along the Aegean, sometimes a city where the air tastes like the sea and the streets stay anonymous, sometimes a midwinter escape where the nights are cold enough to justify days that belong only to two. No one confirmed it, no one ever does. But the details that leak share a tone: quiet breakfasts, long walks, the bliss of schedules erased. And it's those kinds of stretches, free from the rush to perform, that insiders say can knit a bond in a way no premiere ever could. It's not the drama of obstacles that deepens a connection but the ordinary joy of unremarkable days. Now, anyone under constant attention needs a shield, and it's said they keep their circle small. People who protect their time rather than sell it, friends who understand that the most loving thing you can do for a high-profile couple is to make their life feel normal. That tight net matters. It's not just about trust, it's about having spaces where they're not performing, where laughter can be messy and a long silence doesn't need explaining. Ask anyone who's tried to love while the public takes notes. You need a world that belongs only to you. Another pattern observers notice is how they communicate. Not the public statements, but the private work, the troubleshooting, the debriefs, the way they turn toward the problem rather than toward the exit. People talk about the late-night phone calls that stretch past midnight when work keeps them in different cities, about voice notes exchanged between takes, about the way they put frustration into words before it hardens into something sharper. In a world that rewards the look of perfection, they appear to favor the substance of understanding. And that is one of the most disarming truths about them. They don't chase the image of a flawless story, they nurture a real one. Then there are the gestures, the ones that never make headlines because they're not meant to. Stories travel about Barış sliding into a small row at a screening where Yağmur's name is quiet in the credits yet luminous on the screen, slipping out before the applause calls attention to him. And about Yağmur sending a message on the morning of a make-or-break scene, the kind of note that doesn't just say good luck but reads like a steadying hand across the distance. Gifts without ribbon, moments meant only for two people to remember. Little anchors that keep the relationship from drifting when life tugs it in different directions. As for public outings, they've been spotted together, yes, but often by coincidence and usually far from heavy spectacle. A corner table, a walk through a district where everyone minds their own business, an early morning when the city hasn't quite woken up. Choosing invisibility isn't a rejection of joy, it's the quiet art of protecting it. And every time they slip through a day without inviting attention, they reinforce the boundary that allows a relationship to breathe. Those close to the conversation also point out how aligned their habits seem. A lean toward healthy routines, not the performative kind but the kind that makes life easier, walks that start as exercise and end as conversations, meals that favor simplicity, an affection for sunlight and clean calendars where they can find them. Shared rhythms have a way of smoothing edges. When both people place value on being well, in body, in mind, in the little rituals that ground a day, the whole partnership rests on steadier ground. And perhaps the quietest secret is their respect for space. Love that suffocates can be loud, love that lasts often makes room. It's said that when projects demand unusual hours or separations, they don't try to squeeze life into smaller containers. Instead, they agree on how to stay connected, and then they let each other go do the work. Independence isn't a threat to them, it's a promise they make to bring back the best version of themselves. Jealousy is not the currency here, trust is. That's a rare discipline, and it turns out to be deeply romantic in its own way. This is the shape of the story as it's told in murmurs and careful nods. Not a scandal wrapped in neon, but a connection built quietly on respect, attention, and an intentional refusal to let the world own their private happiness. If that feels less dramatic than the rumors you're used to, that's because it is. The drama is in the restraint, the patience, the long view. The choice to build a shelter around what could easily be consumed by curiosity and noise. Think of it this way, every time they say no to a public moment, they say yes to a private one. Every time they step away from the amplified version of their lives, they step into the unfiltered version that makes the rest of it worthwhile. This, more than anything, might be the heart of the matter. They aren't trying to monetize a romance. They aren't chasing clout as a pair. They're choosing, again and again, to let the relationship exist on its own terms and its own timeline. Does that mean there are never disagreements? Of course not. Couples don't become sturdy by avoiding friction. They become sturdy by learning how to move through it. Word is, when tension rises, they pause rather than perform. There are walks taken without talking, then conversations that don't end until both people feel seen. No grand pronouncements. No cryptic posts. Just the work of turning toward each other when it would be easier to turn away. And after the dust settles, the habit returns. The candles instead of the cameras, the late dinners that have more laughter than wine, the morning messages that read like a familiar song. There are even stories about them crossing paths at industry functions and mastering the art of the almost encounter, exchanging a glance that says everything and nothing at once, choosing not to create moments for the flashbulbs. It isn't coyness. It's curation. It's two professionals understanding that when the world feels owed an explanation, silence can be the most graceful answer. And so the legend of that secret getaway continues to live in half-told tales. Some say it was a hidden house high above the coast where the night sky poured itself out without competition from city light. Others swear it was a winter hideout where the quiet made time feel elastic. The specifics hardly matter. What matters is that the story lands the same way every time. Uninterrupted days, the everyday rituals that couples remember years later, an ease that only comes from not having to be anyone but themselves. That memory, real or rumored, seems to hold the entire outline of their bond. Which brings us back to the essentials, a partnership that looks effortless from far away but is, in fact, the result of countless small choices. Protecting mornings. Guarding evenings. Keeping a handful of people close and the rest at a comfortable distance. Finding pride not only in the one another's success but in the way those successes are built. If you've ever noticed how they talk about their work, with pride, yes, but also with gratitude, you've glimpsed part of their private language. Recognition without rivalry. Support without strings. Applause that starts at home. So when we talk about secrets, maybe we're talking about something simpler than it sounds. Not a hidden plot, but a set of values. Authenticity over performance. Admiration that's earned and renewed. Discretion as devotion. Health as a daily choice. Communication as a practice. Space as a gift. It's not the stuff of shocking headlines, but it is the architecture of a relationship that can survive the weather. And that's where we'll leave it today, at the edge of what can be known from the outside and the beginning of what we can feel just by paying attention. What do you see when you look at the two of them? Do you sense the same intentional calm, the same quiet electricity? Drop your thoughts below. You know I read every word. If this journey into their world gave you something to think about, tap like, share it with someone who loves a good, grounded love story, and make sure you're subscribed to Secrets Behind the Stars so you never miss the next chapter. Until then, take care, and we'll meet again very soon.